Deep within the bustling, rain-slicked alleys of a sprawling coastal city, a young street orphan struggled daily just to survive. With no school to guide him and no family to protect him, Rowan relied entirely on his quick wit to find food. One chilly evening, Rowan huddled under a canvas awning where his friend Hana sat quietly. Rowan looked down and muttered, "I do not want to just search for scraps forever." Hana handed him a piece of warm, freshly baked bread she had earned. Hana smiled softly and said, "Then, stop looking at the ground, Rowan, and start looking at how this world actually works." Rowan took a bite of the bread and sighed deeply. Rowan whispered, "But how can someone like me learn anything when I cannot even afford a single school book?" Hana leaned closer, her dark eyes shining with intelligence. Hana said firmly, "The streets are full of experts who know things books could never teach you." Rowan listened intently as Hana outlined a brilliant plan. Hana suggested, "Ask one powerful, honest question to someone successful every single day." Rowan felt a spark of hope rise in his chest. Rowan smiled and said, "One question a day. I can definitely do that." The very next morning, Rowan approached the busiest bakery in the market district. Rowan asked the baker, "What is the hardest part of making enough bread for the whole city?" The baker paused in surprise, then wiped his brow and answered, "It is not the baking, boy. It is predicting the grain supply before the winter storms arrive." Rowan hurried back to Hana and carefully wrote down the baker's precious words on a discarded scrap of parchment. He began to realize that every trade had its own hidden struggles, secrets, and complex patterns. With this new purpose burning bright inside him, Rowan committed completely to his daily challenge. As years rolled by like waves on the harbor, the curious young boy gradually transformed into a sharp, observant teenager. One afternoon, Rowan visited the local blacksmith's forge. Rowan asked the sweaty blacksmith, "How do you know exactly when the metal is strong enough to never break?" The blacksmith smiled, resting his heavy hammer on the anvil. The blacksmith replied, "It is all about the color of the heat. Too bright and it brittle, too dark and it's soft." Hana observed Rowan's rapid growth with immense pride, watching him piece together the city's vast economy bit by bit. By the docks, Rowan met the stern old harbor master. Rowan asked, "What is the biggest waste of money for these massive cargo ships?" At night, under the soft light of a single candle, Hana and Rowan studied detailed harbor maps and trade logs. Rowan's questions grew sharper, targeting the core of every business. Rowan asked a wealthy silk merchant, "Why do you choose to buy from the western hills when the eastern valleys are closer?" The merchant stroked his beard thoughtfully before replying, "Because the western road is dry, wet silk is ruined silk, my boy." By the age of 20, Rowan had secured a modest job as a courier for the Grand Merchant Guild. Whenever he delivered important papers, Rowan continued his daily habit. Rowan asked a senior bookkeeper, "How do you spot an error before the balance sheet is finished?" He began linking all the answers together, forming a deep, intuitive understanding of logistics and trade. Hana smiled warmly at him before a big delivery shift. Hana said quietly, "Your curiosity has made you far wiser than any of the wealthy men you serve, Rowan." Rowan walked toward the grand, high-walled merchant district, carrying a heavy leather satchel of urgent documents. A major economic crisis had suddenly struck the city, leaving the wealthiest merchants in complete panic. Now 24, Rowan climbed the winding marble staircase of the grand shipping headquarters with a crucial parcel. The heavy oak doors of the boardroom stood slightly ajar, echoing with the sounds of desperate shouting. Rowan stepped quietly into the magnificent high-ceilinged room where the city's top millionaires were gathered. The board members were arguing over a lost fleet of grain vessels. The lead director slammed his hand down and yelled, "If we cannot get these ships through the storm, we are all ruined!" Rowan looked down at the navigation map on the table and saw the fatal error they were making. Taking a deep breath, Rowan spoke up clearly. Rowan asked, "Why are you trying to sail around the northern reef when the southern currents are twice as fast during this specific month?" The entire room went dead silent as the wealthy elites turned to stare at the simple courier. The old director adjusted his spectacles, his voice trembling. The director whispered, "What did you just say, young man?" Rowan stepped forward confidently, tracing his finger across the map. Rowan explained, "The cold winds push the southern waters, creating a natural channel that bypasses the storm entirely." The millionaires checked their logs, suddenly realizing that the uneducated courier had solved their multi-million-dollar crisis. The director walked over and placed a warm hand on Rowan's shoulder. The director declared, "We need minds like yours. Pull up a chair, young man." That evening, Rowan shared a magnificent feast with Hana in their cozy home. Rowan laughed and said, "It turns out, asking questions is the greatest education in the world." From that day on, Rowan proved that true wealth begins not with money, but with the courage to ask.